Welcome back to Mom Mentality, friends. If you are a mom who feels like you're constantly chasing perfection, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about ways to kind of fall in love with motherhood, and not because it's perfect, but because we're going to let go of that pressure that society has put on us to have a perfect motherhood and a perfect life. We're going to explore actionable ways to embrace that B plus parenting mindset, which is really just about showing up with love and consistency and enoughness. Plus, I'm going to share some simple resolution ideas that you can make for the new year to bring more joy and hopefully ease to your journey. Welcome to Mom Mentality, your virtual village of support. I'm Jessica Campbell, your family wellness coach, and I am committed to helping you prioritize your and your family's well-being. This podcast will be like your favorite ladies group chat come to life. We'll share the ups and downs of life for moms just like you, get real advice from coaches and experts, and I'll pop in with my own stories and tips on everyday challenges to the big questions. Whether you're juggling work from home, balancing adult life with parenthood, tackling ADHD, yours or your kids, or just trying to catch a breath, Mom Mentality is your spot. Okay, you guys, this is a totally random side note, and I'm totally going to leave this in here, but I have squirrels that keep trying to get into my bird feeders. And I just saw this big old fatty. He looks like he eats just fine, trying to break into my bird feeder that has, it's like supposed to be squirrel proof. And I think it is. I think it's doing a pretty good job. But he has been over here fighting to get into this thing on and off for a while. And now he's like calling his little buddy over. Oh, they're so cute. But like they have destroyed so many of my suet things. One, they like pulled out into the street. He got run over. Goodness gracious. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back into this. Happy New Year. Okay. Let's start with the biggest myth is the idea that we need to be perfect as mom. You know what I mean? Those Instagram worthy playrooms, the organic lunches, the constant engagement. Listen, I love Bluey, but it's so unrealistic to be with your kids and playing at that high of an engaged level all the time. It's one of my favorite shows, and yet it's also highly unrealistic on how intentional those parents are, especially knowing that they're working. It's freaking exhausting. The truth is that chasing perfection really doesn't make us better moms, and it actually usually makes us more stressed and way less present because we're always worried about chasing that next thing. It's like that moving measuring stick to what happiness needs to look like in your life. There's actually this concept in psychology called good enough parenting, which is exactly as it sounds. It's the idea that children don't need perfection. They just need us to be consistent. We need to love them, and they need someone that can meet their basic emotional needs most of the time, not 100% of the time. It's actually good, and it helps build resilience when things aren't perfect for them all the time, most of the time. And that's where the idea of B plus parenting comes in, because it's really more about letting go of the A plus standard that we've developed over the years of everything needs to be the best or you're just not doing good enough. And it recognizes that B plus is more than enough. Like it's above average. It's enough to raise resilient, happy kids, and it's enough to create a loving home, and it's enough to feel good about yourself as a mom. Think about this. Do you remember maybe your favorite teacher from school? Were they perfect? Probably not. But what made them special was how they made you feel, the connection that you had with them. That's the same thing that our kids need from us. They need us to feel loved, safe, and seen, not have moms who check off every single box on some impossible checklist. I know myself, I have struggled with perfectionism in a lot of different ways. And I think a lot of us do because we're so swarmed with social media aesthetics and this idea of like a 10-minute video showing us that people's lives are perfect and they're just not. And I've noticed my kids even fall into some of this. They want all the toys that they see these kids on YouTube opening up. And I have to explain to them that those kids are also getting brand deals. So they get stuff for free. It's not that they just go to the store and get whatever they want. And so there's a lot that goes into it and a lot that's fed to us, but it's so minute in the terms of what the reality looks like in a bigger picture. And so now that we're talking about letting go of that perfection, I want us to explore how we can really fall in love with our motherhood and like really love it, not just survive or tolerate our kids, but to really enjoy the journey that we're taking with them. I've seen a lot of posts around like holidays or just on mom sites in general where it's like, you know, it's okay to take a rest or whatever the saying is, but then it says your child's childhood is also your motherhood, and that couldn't be more true. you have to take care of you too, because yes, you are raising them and this is their childhood, but it's also an experience for you too, and you should enjoy it. So, a couple of things. Number one, reframe motherhood as a relationship and not a checklist, especially when we're caught up in perfectionism. That checklist becomes a like blinding light that we think has to happen, and it's just this unattainable goal that we get, and then we get stuck in our head and we get stressed out because things don't go the way we want them to. I have fallen into this trap many a times, whether it be in parenthood or other things. When we went to New York, we got there and I just kept telling my husband, this is not magical. And I was so frustrated and so stressed out. And it was when I finally let go and we decided not to make plans and just to wander around the city and see what we found. Those days were the best days that we had there. But the days where I tried to have a structure and a plan and I didn't know what to expect out of parking and drive times and all these things, I I'd never done that as an adult. So I didn't know time frames and I didn't know like the logistics of it. But when I finally was able to like let that go and just be and be present, it made our time so much better. And that's where the magic came from. It's not about getting it all done. It's about the relationship that you're building as you go. So it's really just when you're looking at it as a relationship, it's prioritizing more connection over that control. So instead of worrying about whether the house is spotless or whether you've got enough magic, you allow the magic to come through that connection and through being present. A simple action I want you to take from this is to start your day with like mantra, something like connection over perfection. And yes, it can sound cheesy, especially when if you're in the realm of a lot of mental health, sometimes you hear those things, it gets redundant and it can feel kind of just like bleh or woo woo. But you can pick whatever resonates with you. But starting your day off with something that you can hold on to as like your guiding light when you get overwhelmed, it will help you kind of guide your choices through everything throughout the day. Number two is find a little bit of joy in everyday moments. One of the things that we do as a family is we always say what we're grateful for at the end of the day. Sometimes my kids get hung up on that, so we'll shift it a little bit to like, what made you laugh today? What made you smile today? How did you have fun today? So we kind of switch up the words, but the reality is we try to find joy from everything throughout our day and find things that even in the worst days made us happy or helped us feel good in some sort of way. It's so easy to get caught up in like the hustle, which I went through a whole phase of like anti-hustle culture and, slowing things down. And I still resonate with that. I understand that there's a time and a place for certain hustle, especially now as a business owner with launches or, things like that. There is a time and a place, but hustle is not meant for your family. I don't think. I think that hustle is meant to be in sports when you hustle in from the outfield or, when you, like I said, when you have a launch or when you have something that needs to be done quickly, sure, you might have a hustle. But when it comes to connecting with your kids, hustle can be so toxic because it just consumes the dynamic of the family. It really causes you to just kind of forget the magic of those small moments. I mean, your child's giggle, the shared snack, the cuddle on the couch. These are the moments that make motherhood just beautiful. I know something that feels so good to me that I started doing and I didn't realize until I reflected on it how good it made me feel is I just stroke my daughter's hair once in a while. And I didn't get that as a kid. I didn't have someone randomly coming up and like rubbing my back or stroking my hair. And I feel so good when I sit back and think about that I do that. Sometimes not even thinking about it, I just do it. Like it just comes so natural for me. But when I sit back and I reflect on that, I feel so good knowing I've made even that tiny bit of physical connection with her as the day goes on. So we keep that connection even when it's not spoken. But without reflecting and taking the time to sit back, I would have never really thought about it. And so maybe something like that doesn't come up for you. But your action that you could take out of this step is just take 5 minutes every day to be fully present with your kid. It doesn't need to be you being fully present all day, every day. If you can take 5 or 10 minutes a day to be intentional with each of your kids, doing exactly what they want to do, let them guide it, let them teach you something, or let them share a story with you. Just having that fully present 5 or 10 minutes can be a huge shift in your dynamic with your kids. And I'm talking put your phone away, get on their level. Again, do whatever they're doing, what they want to do. Let them lead you. The more you do that, the more you will see just how much it transforms your relationship because you're kind of stepping into their world and allowing them to welcome you in, which is really just a beautiful thing. And number 3 is to build a supportive environment. And we can't say this enough. It's said all the time. And believe me, I completely understand not having a huge village. That's another thing. I think that we hold to this perfection, like we should have a million friends and family around and everybody should be perfect and you should have all hands on deck. And while that would be a beautiful, beautiful thing, it's just not realistic anymore. But having just a couple people it can really change a lot because you may not get a person to babysit every single week or whatever. Even if you only go on a date with your spouse once every 6 months and you're able to go out and laugh and build that connection with them, that's going to make a big difference in your life. Motherhood can feel so freaking isolating, but it doesn't have to be. If you can find or create a support system that can make all the difference. So maybe you don't have family around you. Maybe you've moved across the country and you're in a place where you hardly know anybody. Find a babysitter. Get on something like care.com. I don't know if that's a reputable source, but there's like sites like that out there where people are looking for those jobs, maybe high school students, things like that. And get to know them, see who they are, invite them into your house to watch your kids while you're there a few times. If you're like me and you're not very trusting, um, invite them in while you're there, let them get to know them and build up a support system. Yes, it may be paid, but if you can find somebody who's good for your kids, who connects with your kids, who they feel safe with, then as you work up that system, you'll have more time to go on your own because they won't feel scared. And I say this because I have kids that are very, very attached to me. My oldest does not like me to go anywhere. We still have a community room. Like they sleep in their own bed, but they sleep in my room. Like we just all sleep in the same room because they don't like to be away from me. And rather than working on stressing her out by trying to get her in her own room, especially in a big house, they don't want to be too far from me, which I totally get. They don't even like going upstairs during the day by themselves. So I totally get that. I've just decided to just give them a certain amount of independence. It's that scaffolding of I'll help you take it one step at a time, right? So currently they sleep in their own bed in my room and it works for us. And so for me, in order to get that village built up, they've gotten very used to my dad. So they love, like right now at the time I'm recording this, he's taken them to a movie. They love that. So I get some time with just the baby or just my husband. We don't really do sleepovers except for like very few people. I have, I think, 3 approved people that can watch my kids overnight. That's just how we are. And yes, it still drives me crazy because I'm like, I need time and I homeschool and all the things. And I've chosen all of those. And the majority of the time, I'm very happy with that. But when I'm not taking care of myself, that's when the regret sinks in or when there's resentment or it just gets ugly. So making sure you have a support system where you get a little bit of time away or a little bit of a breather, or you have that backup plan for when things do seem to get too heavy. That is so, so important. And not just finding a babysitter, like if you're in a place where you don't know anybody, you could, look at for local mom groups. Like there's always something like that going on. You can find stuff like that. I know my sister is a couple hours from me, and for a while I thought we were going to move up there and we didn't at the time, but I joined a bunch of groups for her area and I've brought some of them onto the podcast. Like I've been able to connect with people in ways I didn't think I would and found homeschool things and all kinds of stuff. So looking up groups, give yourself the permission to ask for help, whether it be a friend, whether it be a mom group, whether you hire somebody, whether it's your spouse. Maybe your spouse and you get on the same page of like, I've heard of some people saying that they do, I don't remember what they call it, but at night after dinner, like mom will clean everything up and dad will take time with the kids and have that intentional time where he's like wrestling them or doing their thing, right, and playing with them. And then they'll rotate. So like the next night, dad will do the dishes and clean up and mom will get the intentional time. So you can really get creative. This could look so many different ways because everything is unique to you and your family's needs. And so you can really get creative on this and find ways to make it work and just trial and error everything and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, toss it. If it works, keep it for as long as you can. This week, I want you to text a mom friend or join an online group. Connect with other moms because it can be a total game changer. And maybe I know there's some mom groups that can be just awful. So look for different ones, get into different ones. If it's not your vibe, leave that sucker. Do not stay anywhere where you feel like it is toxic for your mental health and your well being. Do not stay there. But there are so many different groups. I currently am working on building up a group within my app. So you would have a separate app if you wanted to join that. It's called VIP Moms, Valuing Intention and Presence, because those are the people with the same values that I want to have in this group. And there's zero tolerance for bullying and the whole thing, because I know that there can be so many mom groups that are negative or not good for you. But like I said, whether you join that one, whether you join ones on Facebook or wherever, if it's not your vibe, don't stay there just because you feel like you need to reach out to somebody. Find a different group or, find an activity your kids are in. Talk to moms that we go to gymnastics and jujitsu and dance. So like if you need contact with a parent that way, go to those things depending on where you're at. I'm in a very rural area, so there's not a lot of things going on for me, but sometimes you can go, like we're part of a homeschool group. You could reach out to other groups like that, like field trip groups or different things. Just research your area and see where you might be able to meet up with people. I know there was we used to have like a story time at the library when my kids were young, and I met a lot of moms there. So there's a lot of options. This week, just join a group or message a friend and just connect with another mom. Just build a relationship. And this leads me into the new year, because with a new year comes all this hope and possibility, but resolutions can be very hard to maintain, especially if you're not setting yourself up for success. So I want to talk about a few simple resolutions that you can make to really increase your joy this year. 2025 is going to be your year, your best mom year yet. Okay. And here's the things that are going to help you. One, anchor resolutions in self-compassion. Instead of setting goals that add a bunch of pressure or focusing on things that don't make you feel good internally, focus your attention on the ones that nurture you and your family. So this could look like, I will prioritize my rest without guilt. I've had to do a lot of work on that because I seem to think that I can do all the things all the time as a work at home mom, with a side business, with homeschooled kids, with a husband I need to spend time with all the extra activities, with all the things. I was stuck in that. So learning to prioritize rest without guilt can be a very, very good one. Or I will let go of what doesn't serve me. And it doesn't mean that you have to completely let go, because some things are easier said than done, right? Like I've had to lose people in my life. I've had to lose things in my life that I enjoyed. It doesn't mean that you're just going to suddenly go cold turkey and be fine with it. But it's about not dwelling, allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel, and finding the acceptance and knowing that it doesn't serve you and moving forward from that. You can still grieve through things that don't serve you, and that's more than okay. But it's also acknowledging and being intentional about moving away from things that don't serve you or people that don't serve you. A simple action for this one could be just writing one self-compassionate resolution and then putting it somewhere you're going to see daily, like a sticky note in the bathroom, on your fridge, mirror, phone wallpaper, whatever you need to do, putting it somewhere so it's not out of sight, out of mind. Number 2 is daily micro actions. I cannot tell you how much I love the idea of micro anything. I learned about micro quitting and or silent quitting people have talked about. And it's just these tiny things that detach you. Well, that's when I started getting onto the micro actions, because I'm you can take just the teensy tiniest little thing and feel so good about it. For me, when I want to clean, I get so overwhelmed. And I think it's my ADHD, which I talk about in pretty much every podcast, because it's brand new. I'm recently diagnosed, right? It's just been a few years. And so I've been on a journey figuring these things out. And for me, when I get overwhelmed and I look at everything, if I can just clean my bathroom, it's the smallest room in the house. It has the least, well, maybe not necessarily the least amount of crap because I can get my bathroom counter pretty covered in stuff. But if I can go in there and get that clean and I pine sol and it smells incredible and my countertops are clear and my mirror's wiped off, oh my God, it puts me into a mode of like it's like it flips a switch. It turns on something in my brain that I'm like, yes, like I've got this together. I am happy housewife, mama, like let's do this. And it doesn't every single time. Sometimes I just feel good knowing I got my bathroom clean, but more often than not, it gets me like ready to go. And then I'm like, oh, this is good. Let me scrub this a little bit or that a little bit. Just that tiny little thing can completely change the way I show up and the way I feel in the day. And so finding something like that for you can be super, super helpful. Maybe it's just that you literally take out cans of soda out of the box and put them back in the fridge so they look nice and aesthetically pleasing. Oh my gosh, it's the simplicity. Sometimes it's if I have a dog with a lot of dog hair. Like he's a Labski and he sheds like I didn't even know a dog could shed that much. Sometimes all it takes is to like go through my couch. I have a one of those hair scraper things to actually go through and not just vacuum, but to use that little scraper and get all the fur off. And then I look at my living room and it's like it's completely transformed. It's crazy how the tiniest little things can make you feel so put together. It's wild. These little actions also make big changes though, right? Because like I said, it starts with that one small thing, puts me in a better mood. Then maybe I don't clean the whole day, but maybe it makes me feel good enough that it gives me this second like wind of energy to want to bake bread with my kids or to want to go on a walk or turn on music and have a dance party, right? It just puts me in a better mood and can make huge changes, not just for cleaning, but for all throughout the day, all aspects of my life. That also takes me back to those uninterrupted moments with your kids, the 5 to 10 minutes. Doing that each day is going to change the trajectory of your relationship in a big way. And, you know, they say consistency compounds. And if you've ever looked at those little like growth charts and stuff, it's like there's like a curve to it. So it might not show right away, but the more consistent you are with it, there will be like a big curve spike of like how deep and connected you and your child are. And you will notice the changes and you will notice just the dynamics through the household shifting the more you're intentionally present with your kids. And this can go for your spouse too and other relationships that you have. These principles are not just assigned to parent children dynamics. Connection works across the board. Whoever's important in your life, build that connection with them. My husband and I went to a comedy show and just being able to laugh with him made us feel so much more connected, which we had kind of been in that like phase with the holidays. We were kind of just living and going through the motions. Like we needed time to slow down and connect with each other. And it was great. So those things don't just have to be for your parent child relationship. They can be for anybody you're around. And another small action, which I feel like is so underestimated, is well, one of two things. You can choose this either way. You could either take 3 deep breaths, 1 deep breath, whatever. Take a breath before you respond to a tantrum or something difficult. Or if you're like me and being told to breathe triggers the hell out of you, or did, it used to trigger me. Now I get it. But if that's something that you're like, oh my God, stop, like, oh, just breathe. I used to hate that. For me, instead of taking a deep breath, I would just sit and I would just listen to my kids scream in the next room and I would just sit there for a moment, still, just shut down, give myself a second to let my body calm back down. And then I would get up and I'd go in and I'd be like, hey, what is going on? Let's talk this out. Let's do what we need to do. Whatever. Let's have a conversation. Having that, what they call empowered pause, that will add up to. Because the more that you can take a moment before you react, the more consistent you're going to be in how you want to show up and the better your connection is going to be with your kids. And there's so many other micro actions that you could pick. It could be so tiny. It could be that you choose to be the one to read your kid a book every night. It could be you choose to be the one to wake your kid up every morning. It could be you choose to Well, for us, we always now, my middle, she really feels unseen, which is wild to me. She's the loudest and most in your face child in our household. But for her, she needs a lot more attention and connection. And so when we go to the store, when we go anywhere, we always ask her if she would like to come. And if if my oldest says she wants to do it, sometimes we'll switch it up and we'll let her go. Usually that's not the case. She usually doesn't mind letting her sister go. But that's just one of those things. It's so small and it makes her feel valued and connected. And it makes her feel like we want her there too. Like, not that she just has to beg to go, but we actually ask her now, do you want to go? Because we know she enjoys it. She feels seen and heard and valued because we do that. And it's not a big action. It's just so simple. So I want you to pick one of those micro actions and commit to doing it for the next week, for the first month. This could be a great resolution. Just pick one little tiny baby step that you use to move forward with your family. And then because you want to connect those dots and see where you're going, where you've been, it's so important to take a little bit of time at the end of like each month, each week, however you want to do that, and reflect. A month gives you a little bit more of an idea of how things are going. You could be reflecting weekly or even daily, but to see big picture, it's definitely a good idea to reflect at the end of the month and kind of see what worked well. This is why reflecting multiple times throughout your month makes sense. So like if you did it daily and you were like, okay, this is what worked today. Or if you did it weekly, that way you could try it every day for a week and then maybe 4 out of 5 times it didn't work. If you had reflected on that first day and it worked, you'd be like, yes. But if you look back at it on the week and you're like, oh, shoot, 4 out of 5 times it did not work, so we're not going to keep going with that, great. That's a good way to reflect. But when you do it over the month, you can have a bigger picture of that idea. And then you can kind of like average all that stuff out and really see what's happening. So what worked well, what felt really hard, and kind of use this as like a guide to adjust and pivot without judgment though. When you look back at these things, like it's not there for you to judge yourself or your kid. It's there to get the facts, to see the evidence and to decide with this knowledge, this is where I want to go. Or with this knowledge, how can we show up as our best selves or build our best connection? What, now that we have this right here in the palm of our hand and we're looking at it, what now? And when you can look at that and have all of that information, it helps you make a more educated decision on to where you want to go from there. I want you to set like a timer or schedule it in your calendar. Make sure you have something that keeps you accountable and use that as that simple action to get moving. Again, these are all very simple actions to get started, to move you forward because they're baby steps. And it's baby steps feel so much more achievable and build up that confidence for you to keep going. It's kind of like thinking of the new year. When people talk about the debt snowball, there's a reason you start with like the smaller numbers first to get to those bigger numbers. So if you want to like pay off your house, you would pay off your littler stuff first and then take that money and put it into the other payment so you could pay that off quicker. So it's kind of like that. Taking those little steps are way more achievable and you can see them happening quicker than you would if it was like a long-term thing. So staying consistent and committed to the small actions is what's going to get you the biggest results. When I work with parents or I talk with parents, even in just casual conversation, when they or we can embrace that B plus mindset, which I like to say B plus mindset because the whole good enough parenting, when I hear good enough, I think of somebody just being like, it's good enough because they just want to like half-ass it. That's not the vibe we're going for here. The vibe we're going for here is that it's okay to get a B plus because that is above average. So you do your best on that test, you get a B plus, and you be totally happy that you put all your effort in and you were still above average. And even the little bit of mistakes that you had were minute and it's okay and everything is golden, right? So not a good enough in a way of just like, let it go. Although in parenthood, like that's going to be something that would be very helpful some days. Like, I'm going to let that one slide. Right? Especially if you have like littles and you're pregnant or something. Woo, that's a rough one. I let a lot of shit slide when I was pregnant, especially with my third. But when I talk to these parents and I'm able to help them see more of that B plus mindset and like relax on some of what they expect to be, well, really perfect in their life, when I can help kind of talk them off that ledge of like everything needs to be perfect, They have so much less stress, so much more joy, so much more deeper connections. They can really thoroughly enjoy the journey and their child. They can appreciate motherhood more and their family more. And I honestly don't think that there's anything better than that, because we say we appreciate it. We say all the time, motherhood's a blessing, but like, do we act like that? Oftentimes, if we're unaware, we don't, because we're so triggered and overwhelmed and overstimulated, and we can't even see what's coming up for us and how we're showing up for the people around us. And so, when you can actually sit back and allow yourself the grace to not be perfect and be able to talk to your kids when you mess up. I tell my kids all the time, like, I do not know where this came from, or I am having a hard time, I'm overwhelmed, or this stresses me out, or that stresses me out, or this scares me. For one, it opens up the doorway to allow yourself that grace, and it allows your kids to be a little bit closer to you because they can understand you too and see that not everybody's perfect, which then helps them have the confidence to say, I am who I am. I'm going to own who I am. And yes, we can all try to work through our things. Listen, I have learned to be around chickens. I don't love chickens. I used to be terrified of chickens, but my daughter is an animal lover. I held a snake, for crying out loud, because she held a snake. And I thought she was going to drop it because it tried to look at her. And that's when she got nervous. And I was like, she cannot drop this person's snake. So I grabbed it and held a damn snake. When you can talk to your kids, you can learn to grow through that too. And you can also, I don't think this is talked about enough, borrow some of your kids' strength. We talk about our kids borrowing some of our calm. We can borrow some of their bravery. That's the village. If we want to talk about villages, when we have the grace to not be perfect and we all show up just as we are and do our very freaking best, we can all borrow the best traits from everyone in our family and support each other to the point where we can have that growth in various ways. So listen, the truth is, you don't have to be a perfect mom. If you're showing up with love, you're already doing an amazing job. There are so many kids out there that don't even get love. If you're showing up with love and you're doing the freaking best you can, you're doing amazing. And I'll take that one step further to say, if you are feeling guilty because you think you're fucking everything up, you are an amazing mom. Because bad moms, I say that like loosely because, what defines a bad mom? But moms who are not good moms, often that's how we think of things in black and white, good and bad mom. Bad moms don't care. If you care and you try and you show up day in and day out in all of your imperfect glory, you are an amazing mom. And I say that with full belief because I grew up with a mom who didn't try her best. And maybe she did care. I don't know. I'm not in her mind. But I've been a product of a mom who didn't try her best. And I've been a product of a mom who put her children on the back burner and left them. And if you're not leaving your kids and you're showing up and you're doing it, maybe you do go to the bathroom for 5 minutes and shut the door and cover your ears while everyone cries. That's okay. That's okay. You're still there and you're still in the thick of it and you're still doing the thing. You are an amazing mom. And I want you to go into 2025 remembering that. And while you can always strive to be the best mom you can be, you do not have to be a perfect one. Matter of fact, it's better for your kids to not have a perfect mom. Your kids need to see imperfect people because that's what's going to make them the wholest and best version of themselves and love themselves. To see you being okay with not being perfect, with everything not going how you plan, that's what they need. That's going to make them the healthiest person they can be. And it's what's going to make you the most joyful person you can be. And it's going to make your family the closest and most healthy family you can be together. I got off on this little tangent, but I want to recap before I leave you. Falling in love with motherhood starts with letting go of all that pressure. We do not have to be perfect. B+ parenting is where it's at. Focus on your connection, not control, and just take small, intentional steps to make motherhood feel good. Motherhood should feel good. And I'm going to recap on those simple actions too, because if you're anything like me, you get all of this information and then you're like, what? And you need it just spelled out or bullet pointed. Okay. So simple action, start your day with a mantra. whether it be connection over perfection or something else. Start your day with a mantra. Simple action number 2, text a friend or get involved in a parent group or just start working towards finding mom friends. Build that village. If you want to join my group as we build, you are welcome to do that. I would love to have you. My dream is to have a big, thriving group of women who thoroughly support each other from all over the world, because we all have different cultures and we all have different perspectives. And I think that can be so beautiful if we're respectful. Number 3, write a self-compassionate resolution and put it somewhere that you keep daily. Fridge, mirror, phone wallpaper, whatever. Number 4, pick a micro action and commit to doing it daily for the next week, for the next month, for the whole year. Whatever you think you can commit to, pick one. And finally, set a reminder in your calendar for a 10-minute reflection at the end of each month. 10 minutes is really all you need. Make sure you have that time to look back, see what works, see what doesn't. Make that time. You don't need a huge resolution. You just need little steps to move yourself forward. Things that are actually realistically achievable. Things that when you get into day 3 and you haven't hit the gym, you're not going to feel bad about it because you're like, okay, well, I didn't go to the gym today. What little thing can I do? Maybe I'll do arm killers in my living room, right? Small things. It's not about the big picture every day. It's about all the little wins that get you to the big picture at the end of the road. And so I want you to reflect as we head into the new year, what is one thing you're going to let go of and embrace more to have more joy in your motherhood? Share it with me on social media. You can even email me at jess@jessicacampbellco.com. Email me if you want. I would love to hear from you. I am all about talking to people. I could talk all day. Message me wherever you want. Let me know what you're going to let go of so that you can embrace more joy in your motherhood. And of course, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper, I have a couple options. When and if you join the VIP Moms group, there are free resources in there. You can sign up for that on my website. I will put it in the show notes. And if you feel like you need more guidance, you need more one-on-one, you need someone to help you get going, where to start, or help you reflect, maybe you just need someone to help you connect those dots, of course, I am here to help with coaching as well. You can, again, also find that on my website. We can schedule a free discovery call if you're not sure. However you need this to look, I'm here to support you any way I can. I honestly feel like together we can make this your most fulfilling year ever. And I want you to be able to go through the rest of your life enjoying motherhood and not resenting any of it. Because whether we want to say that out loud or not, sometimes that creeps up. And my goal is to help you enjoy the entire ride. You know, it just came up for me is that whole life's a garden, dig it. I want you to dig motherhood, okay? I want you to dig it. Motherhood's messy, it's magical, and it's unique to you. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up with love. And that, my friend, is already more than enough. We'll see you next time.
Remember, you are powerful, you are worthy, you are valued, and you are loved. Keep pushing, keep loving, and most importantly, keep believing in your amazing ability to empower your legacy.
Y'all, he is back on it. Oh my goodness. You know, my kids actually named some of the squirrels. Like every squirrel is basically Spidey. We have Spidey and Spin and Black Panther. And we do have black squirrels here. So we have Black Panther. And I tried to get them to name one T'Challa. And they were like, yeah, okay. But they never remember that. So we mostly just have Spidey, Spin, Black Panther. Oh, and Ghost Spider. Those are the names of these little freaking jerk squirrels outside my window. They're so distracting.